Nickelodeon.
From Nickelodeon Animation in Burbank, California, this is the Nickelodeon Animation Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast. I'm Hector Navarro, and we've got an epic episode for you today. After the immense success of Avatar: The Last Airbender, Mike DiMartino and Brian Konietzko followed up with The Legend of Korra, an incredible show full of amazing action, but also full of characters that you loved. I'm talking about characters like Korra, Mako, Bolin, and Asami. And today we have got the voice actors from that show. Voice of Korra, Janet Varney, the voice of Mako, David Faustino, and the voice of Bolin, PJ Byrne. But stick around for a second bonus interview because you know that we had to talk to the voice of Asami, Seychelle Gabriel. So stick around for that, and without further ado, I give you the cast of The Legend of Korra.
Republic City is a war zone. While Prince Wu led the remaining citizens to safety, Team Avatar battled Kuvira's giant mech, but no amount of bending could bring it down. In a last-ditch effort, Asami and her father outfitted the hummingbird suits with platinum cutters. Hiroshi helped Team Avatar infiltrate the mecha giant, but he paid the ultimate price. Is victory within reach for our heroes?
You have a perfect podcast voice.
Get out of here.
Calming.
Really?
Yeah.
Really good.
Oh my
It's
gosh,
really
thank you
nice.
so much.
It's a
Thank
very
you.
nice drive. You know, it's lying in bed,
I appreciate that.
holding a friend's hand, taking a walk.
Just a friend.
Just a friend. Walk away from Nickelodeon and be like, NPR, I'm getting a bigger deal.
This is it. No, this is where I
With
want to be.
NPR.
How did you get into voice acting? Is this something that you always planned to do, or was it just something that you guys sort of just fell into?
I'll go first.
Yeah, Dave, take
no,
that.
No, I don't.
Please.
I like when you
please.
take it.
You know
No,
what
we
I was
always
thinking
like-
as you said that? I was like, I hope David goes first.
David.
Because I feel
David
like
always
you're-
goes first.
Because you have like a legit voiceover. Like you came already having done a bunch of stuff when you came to Legend of Korra.
When I got
That's
here-
not true
He's
for
also
you.
been in the entertainment world for like so much longer.
course.
Oh, how's that?
right.
How's
Tell
that?
me
You're
more.
not a newcomer?
He's also the sexiest man in Hollywood.
And
right.
yeah.
I just I had been like PJ said, I've been doing it since I'm a little baby in this business, even before Married with Children. And as I went on, and my dad used to tell me, get into voiceover. It's like a second career. And I'd be like, okay. But it was really my dad who inspired me to do it.
Jen, how did you get into VO?
Weirdly, also David's dad. He had just said to me,
Inspiring guy.
he was out there just preaching the word on VO, and
He got the whole business.
he really did.
He started
Bless
a
him.
church. It's in Burbank, actually. The VO church. The word is
Yeah, it's great. No, I guess I never really thought like, oh, that could be me or that will be me. And even when you get here and you start working in one capacity, for me anyway, I don't know if this is true for you guys, like I was working on camera and still the idea of being able to be, a cartoon voice or like a video game voice or anything like that, that still seemed like something other people got to do. And I
Right.
think there's a real feel of that for a lot of people in the business, which is somehow you can talk yourself out of thinking that anything you're not already doing is possible. Like you'll be like, well, I can't be in movies because that's what other people do.
Right,
I
yeah.
can't direct something because that's what other people do.
Yeah.
Rather than like embracing the possibility of, wait a minute, I'm here. I got a job. That's a huge accomplishment in and of itself. What if that's, what if I could be a cartoon voice? What if
Yeah.
I could direct? What if I could write or sell scripts or whatever? And so that's the thing that I always tell people when they're asking me, how to get started or whatever,
Sure.
is just to sort of try to quiet those voices because they become very powerful and they don't have to be, right?
Yeah.
You just can just keep trying and keep
Yeah.
doing it. So when I started getting the opportunity, like it took a little while for me to approach my commercial agent's voiceover department to say, hey, I don't know, but like I'm interested in voice. I feel like I apologized all the way through.
But that voice, they're like, no, that's not a great voice.
I've done it. Yeah, they're like, I love your apology voice. Please, we'll get you tons of timid characters.
Janet, what kind of stuff in the world of animation do you love? Was there stuff that growing up, like cartoons, movies, anything that made you want to do VO or yeah?
Yeah, I think it's just never not been a thing. I don't even think I had one specific thing. Listen, I watched my share of Scooby-Doo and the Super Friends for sure. Also hugely inspired by the Muppets. Like that to
Very
me, that that's like the concept of that, like, oh, that's a real living character. Like, we think of Kermit the Frog.
Yeah.
He seems like his own person,
Yeah.
a frog.
You're talking about PJ, right?
Even though I'm talking about PJ's
Hello.
legs. I'm talking
And
about
my
PJ's
sister.
beautiful sticks.
And his sister.
And David's sister, who apparently were both called Kermit the Frog because they have cute, skinny legs.
Good, thanks for
Listen, I wanted to catch
clarifying.
everyone up. And so to those, anything like that where you start, and I think for me, people weren't really talking about who was doing cartoon voices. I mean, I think you sort of get a sense of like, oh, Mel Blanc, he's this guy who does all these voices, like your parents tell you. But it's not, for me growing up, it wasn't like it is today where people take a real interest in who's doing voices for what. But I do feel like that existed a little bit with the Muppets. So that was kind of a way, a voice, quote unquote, voiceover way of getting to know, like, oh, wait, I know who Jim Henson is, and I know who Kermit is. And in my head, I know that Jim Henson does the voice of Kermit, but also in a different part of my head, Kermit's his own person.
David, were you going to say something?
I was going to interject just piggybacking off of
Miss
what...
Piggybacking?
Yeah. Oh, it's appropriate.
Like that,
Let's keep with the
off of what she said about Mel Blanc. Just a quick story is when I was a young kid, I was in an audition with a bunch of other kids. I don't even remember what it was for, a commercial or something. Long story short, Mel Blanc came in. We were all kids, you know. We didn't, and he starts doing. He knows there's all these kids in there, so he's like, I'm gonna mess with these kids. So he starts going around the room and he's doing different voices. He's doing Bugs and he's doing all the characters.
Oh my gosh.
And no one, we're kids. We don't know what's going on. We're just like, where's that coming from? And it was the coolest thing. And I have a signed.
Wow.
That's
thing for
a
him,
sweet
yeah.
moment.
Yeah.
You
So if
still
there's a
remember that
moment, I guess that was it. But I was too young to really go, hey, I want to be in voiceover. I was just
Totally.
like, oh my God, it's Bugs Bunny.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And Yosemite Sam and.
Oh my God.
Anyway, that's my
incredible.
story.
No,
Your turn.
totally.
I know you have a heart out, PJ.
Yeah,
I got a hard out, guys. Like
I'll
about 3
let you
minutes
talk now.
left.
Top that Mel Blanc story.
I can't. My story, there's no story to it. I feel, God. But I'm going to piggyback the piggyback. But I feel like, Dave's dad knew, and just like Korra, that we all kind of came, Janet, we all kind of came
I'm fine
to,
with it.
to the same.
I actually
to the-
prefer it.
Yeah, to the same point. I have like a finance background, so I think innately my mind, when you come into the entertainment business, you're like, let's diversify. So you want to do movies and TV, and like voiceover is another option. And honestly, it's always, I don't know, you guys feel the same thing. It's like when something's up or down, whatever, it's like, oh, this was always a great job because we can always come back here and have fun and be loose and see your friends and get paid for it, which was always a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
But this job for me in particular was literally my first job in the voiceover world.
Wow.
And I always hated my voice. So hearing it isolated by
What?
itself was like,
Yeah.
oh, I grew up, can't stand
PJ,
it.
it's such a great voice.
Oh my God, my whole life I was like, I can't hear myself. I want to like...
I've actually got you muted.
No, I know. It's weird.
How did you get involved with The Legend of Korra? What was the auditioning process like? How did you hear about it? How did you come into this?
I literally had just gotten a voiceover agent, but I made like a voiceover thing about doing like, come on down to 7-Eleven, enjoy the whatever, like the Slurpee, like doing that stuff. And they're like, your voice is kind of like appropriate to be a teenager, if you will. I'm like, oh, there you go. I don't know. I didn't know how I felt about that statement, but that's actually where I sort of live. I do another thing called a Firestorm. He's kind of like that same age bracket, if you will.
Yeah.
So they're like, why don't you go on this thing? And I was honest, to be perfectly honest, I was a little nervous. But those two, Mike and Brian, are maybe the nicest humans
greatest.
to literally walk the planet. Did we read together, or did we go back when we went back to the callbacks? Maybe we all
I
went
think
in
we
together.
auditioned together.
Yeah, I feel like we did.
Yeah.
And then obviously having them in the room, and they
I was
were
like, that
cool.
guy screwed up my flow. I hope I still got this thing.
booked it. You still booked it.
Just like brothers.
But I remember everyone
Just
being like
like
really
brothers.
cool, and we were like really loose
Yeah.
and cool, and it
Yeah.
was. That's it. I think it all was like something bigger than all of us, kind of.
Yeah.
Janet, how did you get Korra? How did you get this role?
It was the same. It was an audition process. I felt like it happened over a long period of time, and I felt like there were a lot of auditions, but maybe it was just like the first initial one, maybe just at Nickelodeon, and then maybe with Mike and Brian, and then maybe chemistry. But time passed. Time passed
Yeah.
to where you assume
You didn't
it's
get
going
it.
nowhere.
Yeah.
Especially if you
That's
don't
so-
have any experience in
that's so
voiceover, because then
tough.
it takes a long time to
Right,
hear
yeah,
stuff.
yeah.
with
Because
voiceover.
it's your guys' job as actors to go in, audition, and then walk
That's
away.
it.
And let
That's
it
it.
go.
Like
Forget
that
it.
was my
Go.
job. My
Totally.
job was
That's
to
crazy.
audition,
Totally.
and I finished my job,
And
and
you
I
come
can't
back
ever
for-
think about it again.
Right, you come back for a callback and then walk away. Like, at
Yeah.
what point were...
But you have to go
That's
in.
all in
but you-
theory.
But when you go
Yeah.
in, it's your job. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's like, no, I'm all in. I'm going to do all the work.
Yeah.
This is my job. No one's better than me. And like, I can't wait to get this.
Character.
And then you walk away and you're like, all right, what did I do?
Throw it away.
What did I do?
Wow. So
it's really hard.
at
That's
what
all.
point-
That makes it sound like that's what happens every time, and that's not. That's
Right.
It takes a
the
minute
thing
to-
you're practicing at for the rest of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a question for you guys.
Not PJ though. He's mastered it.
No, I mastered it.
Well,
No.
he's a
This is
sociopath,
actually a
so
question
he
for you
doesn't really
guys.
attach
I'm so
anything.
curious. So let's say it's a gigantic job, like, or let's say you're testing the gross version, like it's a network show or a cable show. Pick your favorite, whatever version. It's the greatest part. The money attached is ridiculous. Like, oh my God, this is a minimum of da-da-da. And then you start doing the math in your head, which you should never do the math.
And you got a finance background. You can't
Don't
help
do the math.
yourself.
You can't help
So
yourself,
just
man.
love the
I
job,
can't
but
do the
every
math,
once
so
in a
I
while
don't even
the
try.
math comes in, you're like, God, if this goes, and you do that, you're like, this could be, oh my God. And then if you go, oh, if this goes 4 years, you're like, oh, this finally paid for my child's education. Thank you, Jesus. Okay, then you find out like they love you, you're amazing, you were incredible in the audition and the callback, and you tested, and the network loves you, blah blah blah. So it's built up.
PJ, you're making me nervous.
Yeah,
and
you know.
I'm having an anxiety.
And then you
You
get
already have this job.
And then
Don't worry,
we've all been there.
I'm
'cause
not even an actor,
I'm
and I'm
giving
like-
them the worst case scenario, and then you get a call, be like, you know what? Last second, they just went the other way.
Yeah.
Hate that line.
They went
now,
the other way.
how
They went
long-
a different way.
They went a different way. It's gonna be a woman, PJ, and she's 14.
When did it hit that you guys had this and that it was gonna like affect your life? Like, when did it sink in?
Well, I've told this story before, but I was
heard
when
it.
but listen, maybe you haven't heard, or maybe you heard it at a convention and you've already forgotten. You're very busy.
I never forget anything.
I was again, a lot of time had passed, so I fully assumed that I did not get it. And then I was buying. I was in Joann's Fabrics in Burbank. I was buying some craft supplies because I enjoy crafting.
She's gonna build a bed. She's gonna build a house.
I
that
was
day.
going
loves
to build a house.
macrame.
Maybe closer to like I was going to build a dollhouse, probably. But so I feel like I was either in the embroidery thread aisle or possibly the beading aisle. And my voiceover agent called me to tell me I got it, and I had misunderstood and thought it was a pilot. So I said, he told me I got it, and I was so excited. And I think I jumped up and down, and people were looking at me weird because, in general, I feel like you don't get that kind of energy in Joann's Fabrics. And I was like, oh my gosh, so when do we record the pilot? And he was like, well, the show's picked up. You're going to be doing multiple episodes. It's already picked up. And I couldn't even, I
doesn't
like
click,
that.
yeah.
I
Wow.
was so overwhelmed and so thrilled about that because the other stuff I'd done some commercials, which, that's a kind of a one and done. And then I had done a pilot for Nickelodeon here that I loved.
Yeah.
And it didn't go, as many don't, but I loved it so much. And that was one of those fragile moments where I was
Yeah.
like, oh no, I thought I was going to get to be this unicorn. And so the fact that piece, that risk was already, it was past that. It was like, you don't even have to worry about whether it goes. It is going. And that just seemed like, that was such a dream come true. So I was just, over the moon about that. And then I still didn't realize, and I liked Avatar. The Last Airbender was an amazing show. Yeah. I didn't have an awareness of the fandom though. And so that part of it was that was a rolling series of surprises of, like I've told this story too before, but Sarah Noonan at Nickelodeon, after we had recorded a handful of episodes, running into her here and having her, square off with me and look in my eyes deeply and say, are you ready for your life to change? And I was like, I don't know what that means, but sure, sounds great. And then like the final sort of piece of that was the first
the Comic-Con
we went to when there were thousands of people in that room.
insane.
That wasn't real.
My knees were jealous.
That was it.
when we
Had
walked
the,
out.
had the show even come out then, or was this like a before the show
That's a good
even comes
question.
out, this Comic-Con experience? You get,
I know.
It
I think it
come
did.
out, right?
But we never saw it
Yeah, it
with
did
a
come out.
crowd.
Yeah.
And that's when it was like. And then
watch an
people
episode.
who are
Because
dressed
we
up
saw,
as you.
that before we even went into the room, as we were being walked there, we already started seeing people dressed as Amon and dressed.
No, that
as-
was incredible.
It
I mean,
was
No, but there was
we would
people
go-
lined up to get
Yes.
into the room at like midnight
The night
I
before.
know, and there were like there was like 1,000 people who didn't get in or
was
something
crazy.
crazy like that.
I feel like if we knew that, we would have went and like delivered pizza or something.
I
You know,
know.
the night
Yeah.
I just finished rewatching the show. I did a rewatch yesterday.
All
I finished
the seasons?
it.
No.
All the seasons.
Come
all the
on.
seasons. I did for the past couple, because I knew that I was going to be talking to you guys and wanted to rewatch it. And what I love about the show is that it's not cookie cutter, obviously. These characters are not one note. Mako is somebody who is so frustrating in the way that all of us are frustrating as people, in the way that Bolin is frustrating and Korra is frustrating. And then you root for them so hard. And then all that does is make the action stuff even more intense because you love these characters and they're all people.
Right.
What I love about Mako is that he's just this young guy figuring himself out, and all of the characters go through such a journey. But I love where Mako begins and where he ends. Bolin is Bolin from the beginning to the middle to the end, but even Bolin figures stuff out. Even Bolin's like, oh, okay, I need to not have relationships the way I had relationships, and now going forward. And
no, but I agree with you. Everyone in this show has this great journey from beginning to end, but they. And
I think my favorite is when you were an actor. Bolin.
Oh my God! Yeah.
He was on set for a while, right?
Yeah. But that's part of his journey. So Bolin started as like pure of heart, and the world is great.
Yes.
But that's kudos to his brother who like knew the world was darker.
Yeah.
And like protected me from all that because we grew up in a hard life. But at some point, we're both growing up, but he knows what the world really is, and I have no concept because God bless him, he protected me.
And then it hits
So as I
you.
go through life, I'm seeing the world is a little darker, relationships are hard, and then the world gets crazy dark. Like, the world cannot be here. Like, essentially that.
Yeah.
But they were so good about, as great and grandiose as this show is, and I think what makes incredible shows, it's all about character, and having all the characters go through a journey and having all the different layers and, all the greatest people I've ever worked with talk about like a character doesn't just have 2 problems, they have like 10 problems, and you play the 10 problems in every moment, and that makes it interesting.
Yeah,
so as I went through, the journey, he did come back and go, you know what? The world it can be dark, but like if I still maintain pure of heart, I can navigate it properly.
It's kind of like what I tell you in real life.
That's every day. He calls me pure of heart. Pure of heart. Pure of heart. Pure of heart.
Was there any specific moments that you guys, all 3 of you guys, can recall where after playing these characters for a while that maybe you influenced the direction of the character, of the storyline, of the relationship, or would you ever give feedback and go like, I feel like, that Korra would say it this way, or that Bolin would do this, or...
I think after a couple episodes and they knew that or at least me, I was being a little looser, I would actually improvise less as the years went on because then they knew my voice and they would just write to it. So I would show up like, I just need to memorize. This is great. And then I was like, that was it.
I think like any great show, whether it be animation or on camera, the writers and the actors have kind of this fun little
symbiosis
kind of dance going on where they start to maybe write a little bit for the actors' strengths and it's fun to do that. And I think
the more you bring yourself to any part, I think that makes the part richer and better and cleaner and clearer. And then the more they see that and I always feel like they were so good about being a team and letting you sort of do you. And I feel like at the end of the day, the writers and everybody involved, you can't think of everything, and the actors for their own parts will always innately at the end of the day go deeper than you can. Yeah. And then, but once they see that in you and you see it, they just trust.
They trust
and once that trust happens, it's gold.
Can you guys think of a specific thing that you brought, either like a moment or just like what is it that you brought to the character? Either in the beginning that you feel like ended up influencing
it. It's all, but that is true for you from the beginning. I mean, I think they knew
it happened very quickly.
For you, they knew what. I think they knew what they were. When I say signing up for, that makes it sound like they knew it was bad.
Holy
but like
crap.
we knew what we were signing up for.
Good
but
luck
I mean,
with
I
him.
think they knew what they had with you in that very specific way. Unlike any other character on the show, I think they knew what they had with you, and that relationship, I think, was more symbiotic quicker, at least for me from the outside.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Because
we were
David and I were really
script.
just reading. We were reading off the script. I couldn't even imagine. It's so funny because I do so much improv in my non-Korra life, and even like if I do a con where I'm asked to do an improv show and I'll do that, but then I'm doing a Korra panel, or sometimes I do this thing that one of my managers created where you get to ask a character something and they have to answer and kind of improvise in character.
Oh wow!
And I
sounds awful.
It's so hard. It's very scary.
It's a lot of work.
And
That's
people
a
who
lot of
like
work.
do really funny voices and stuff, they do it so quickly. But I'm so protective of Korra and of Mike and Brian that my improv skills just click off.
Oh, yeah.
I can't. It's like two separate people all of a
that's
sudden. I'm like,
also-
oh wait, I don't know how to do this. How do I improvise this Korra? I wouldn't want to say anything wrong or do anything wrong.
And that's kudos to them, though, because they did write an amazing show, and the characters are full and rich. It's like, let's be honest, I didn't have to veer too far off from what was on the page. I mean, because that's how studly these guys are.
Don't worry, Chuji and Rotan. I will end the evil Unalak's reign of terror, for I am Nuktuk, hero of the South!
Nuktuk, you're not just the hero of the South. You're our best friend.
Nuktukity! You two are the best snow raccoon and Arctic panda a guy could ask for!
Do you guys have a favorite sort of like villain slash threat slash antagonist or like, book arc? Do you guys have a favorite one that you
I
like?
like Amon. That was my favorite.
Yeah,
He's
man.
just so badass.
Terrifying.
And
Terrifying. Steve Bloom, amazing.
Steve Bloom is
I
also
love
the
that guy.
nicest guy in the
Love
universe.
him to death and so
Sweetest.
talented.
And a great retweeter.
Warmest.
A great retweeter.
And a great reader.
Yeah.
God bless him. He's
Great with his thumbs.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah. Jenna, do you have a favorite?
yeah, book 4 for me. Just all the stuff that happened. I love Kuvira. I loved the sort of mirror image that Kuvira and Korra were to each other. The sort of like alternate universe Korra in a weird way.
Yeah.
And then, and obviously I loved what Korra had to grapple with.
Yes.
I loved as a bad. I mean, it was terrible, but I loved how that was treated. I loved that she was not above experiencing post-traumatic stress. And then obviously I loved that she ended up with Asami.
For the show to go where it did, to have even just what it featured, I think is not a big deal for most people. And for some people, it's the biggest deal in the world to have this relationship start to blossom. And I am so excited I get to ask you guys, what was it like to be a part of a show that did that? And Janet, what was it like for you to know that was happening and then to be a part of that?
It was a profound privilege. It truly was. I know that Seychelle wanted to be here, and I love my brother sitting next to me.
Love my boys.
And only the fact that they were here was I not so sad to not see Seychelle, because she and I keep in touch and we've been emailing each other and we thought we were going to see each other when we did this, and then it just didn't end up working out. And so I know I'm very comfortable speaking for her, saying that we were both so thrilled. We were told together by Mike and Brian, we were pulled, and sort of we had this great conversation with them, and we were just over the moon about it. And so for us, and it has never stopped, right? For us, it has continued to be a big deal, and we get people reach out to us all the time, and
People
when I do
ask you-
cons, that's still kind of the number one topic.
People ask you
and
to propose in character.
I
like, 'cause
did.
there
I've
wasn't like a
proposed to
proposal.
Seychelle, and she sort of proposed back when we were not in the same place. Our voice recordings were kind of sent and shared with each other.
Did you guys say yes?
No, actually, in a weird twist, we didn't know. Okay. We absolutely did.
Yeah.
We
And
absolutely
what did the ring look like?
Yeah. and then the books that have come out. I mean, the first book that came out, Korra and Asami it picks up right where it left off. So they get a chance to. There's the beautiful, beautiful artwork, and Irene too. I mean, just like phenomenal, beautiful stuff. And so we still get to experience that on a regular basis. I am so privileged to have been a part of it. I'm also really excited for 10 years from now when kids are like, wait, that was a big deal?
Yeah.
I'm so excited for it not to have been a big deal.
Absolutely.
Because it shouldn't be.
Yeah.
So it's kind of both. It's like you're excited to be a part of something when it feels like it's part of a wave of change, and then also excited for
it not to be a big deal.
For people to be like, I can't believe that was ever an issue. That's exciting too.
PJ, do you have a favorite moment in the series? First of all, do you have a favorite villain? We ran through the 4 books. Was there one that you really...
I love saying Unalak. I just it's like saying Guatemala.
Yes.
Guatemala. Yeah, that's where he's living now. I don't know if you know that. He's got a beautiful apartment looking at the water in Guatemala.
Did you have a favorite?
I love the
Bolin?
twins. I mean, the twins always blew my mind. She scared the hell out of me. It was... We were never, by the way, in the same room, and we never recorded together, which it still blows my mind how that works, and it matched up, and it completely makes sense.
You guys did great.
When you see us together, in the cartoon, but I don't know. Those twins were, I think, like my
they were
absolute
awesome.
favorite.
They're so great.
Because we were just so opposite. We were just so opposite spectrums of the world, and I think he still did kind of love her on some weird, bizarre level, and because he just loves everybody. And I think there's a part of him was like, I'll still spend the rest of my life with you. But then you just scared the hell out of me.
Of Bolin and Eska that will end up like I get that. That makes sense to me.
No, that's in the books after. That's coming in 10 years.
Bolin, laugh at my humorous quip.
Yes, dear. So funny. You know, I'll be really sad when you have to leave. It's been really great getting to know you. Really.
But you will be coming with me to the north. There, we will live the rest of our lives together in icy bliss.
How do people react when they're like, "Oh my gosh, you were in The Legend of Korra. This is awesome."
As often as someone coming into a situation already knowing that I was part of the show, as often something will happen where like I'm halfway through something. I don't know if it's another job that I'm working on or if it's just like an exchange with someone that's short in a day. But a lot of the time there will be this interruption in whatever I'm doing when someone goes, wait a minute, my cousin just called me. You're the voice of Korra?
Yeah.
And then you have to stop and address that because it takes a while for them to get over how exciting that is. And that's a really cool moment where sometimes they don't know. I would never volunteer that because that's not why I'm there, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they say, they're like, can you just record something for my daughter? She's, she just found out I'm working with you today and she loves Korra. And,
that's awesome. Cool.
Those moments are the best.
What's your go-to catchphrase in Is Korra? What do you do?
I usually say something like, like if I'm recording something for someone's kid, I would be like, hey, Madison, it's Korra. Listen, I hope you're having a great day. And I just want to remind you, I'm the Avatar and you got to deal with it.
Nice. That didn't sound like her, though. That's so weird.
Interesting. I guess I've lost it. I've lost the touch.
That's good. You nailed it.
I get like more shock and awe, like from because I'll be like at a convention and then they'll be like, wait, you're what? Bud Bundy is this is a whole weird
when
thing
you
that
have two
happens.
huge iconic characters, to say the least, like you have others too,
totally.
but if one person knows you from something and then they find out you're also this other favorite thing of theirs, like
what I get, which is cool, is I'll get like the dads and the parents coming over to like, oh, married with children, but and they have their little son that has no idea who and then they'll see and they'll be like, oh, and then it's like two generations, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool.
You got him, man. You got him right there.
Yeah,
2 generations
for sure.
and counting.
Yeah, and counting. Yes.
Yeah.
Working on my 3rd.
Yeah.
If I'm ever promoting anything else, the only thing anyone ever comes up with is a picture of Bolin. It's so crazy. No matter where I am, like you go to a movie premiere or whatever, you're walking with a line of car, they have like they're there with Bolin things for you to sign
and
your
that's
name.
something
It's
to be
so
said for you
wild.
because you're like in every movie.
Don't you do that? Not tonight. Not today. But that always it blows
In
my
every
mind
series.
that people show up with our pictures.
Yeah.
Would you guys come back for a special, for a one-off, like a movie, like a series? Would you guys come back and play these characters again?
Yes.
And great.
And
Okay.
that's up to Mike and Brian, to be honest.
Yeah,
like,
sure.
That's where their lives are. We know we get to come in, be friends, hang out, play, have a blast. And then they go to war. So it's war writing it, it's war prepping it.
Yeah.
I don't know if you ever talked to them about it, but like
I
when
have.
they were doing it, it's like they're juggling probably 15 shows at once. So the prepping the shows, doing art on the old shows, like going back in time. It's like
crazy.
Traveling, barely sleeping. I mean,
know.
yeah.
So like
True.
nonstop.
They put 100.
So let's get them back.
in.
Get them back in the box working.
What was a recording an episode like for you guys?
Oh, super fun.
Great.
A
So much
blast,
fun.
man.
It was great when everybody could be together. That was
Yeah.
the great moments. When we had the room filled.
Yeah, when every microphone
Henry
was
Rollins
taken.
over there, J.K. Simmons.
And this
Yeah.
is the
Maria
room, which is
Bamford.
really
Yeah.
sweet.
Yeah.
They were back.
Cool.
That's great.
A lot of fun, man. It was,
I always
we
wore
just
this
bantered.
outfit,
We always had fun. Always had fun.
And to have the guest stars that came in season after
yeah,
season
Anne
where
Hayes.
we were like, welcome to our show. Anyway, you're still better than me.
Yeah. You're huge.
Well, now you guys are huge.
What was your favorite moment, Bolin?
Oh, I don't know. I was on an island. Okay. And then, like, you were on an island. I don't know what you mean. I have to think about it. Let me think about it. I'm going to table that one.
I'm going to say anything that you did that involved Varric was tops.
He was
Oh,
gosh.
Varric is probably one of my favorite
Those two characters
No, for sure.
on screen at the same
Hysterical.
time make me cry with laughter.
Well, we go back.
Hysterical.
We worked together before too. So
He's in my improv group, you know
is
that.
he really?
Yeah.
Is he the
JMH.
Yeah. Is
Is
he like
he
the
the very
best of the
best?
best?
Oh, yeah.
I think he might be, but also
He's-
like making up songs. We're gonna riff and
God,
make up a song, and
he's the best. He's the best.
he's another J.K. Simmons,
Yeah.
otherworldly, not himself, stepping out of his body, and
Yeah.
just like pure and just a riffing god.
Oh yeah,
a
riffing
god.
God.
A god.
But like when that was being in that isolation booth. There's this one booth that sometimes we get put in. It makes us feel like we've been bad, but really it has more to do with like if you're working the most that day or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
And in my case, I was very lucky because there were so many times with all these amazing talented people that we would have where I would just not be able to stop laughing at what they were doing, whether it was off
yeah, we
mic
had some of
or
those.
on.
Yeah.
But John Michael Higgins is one of those people when he would just say the line,
yeah, just say
and I
it.
would lose it.
I mean, he didn't even have to change any wording or
No,
do anything.
not
He
at
just
all.
say it.
Everything
And it's
he was
like,
doing
totally.
was
This is a
gold.
But I
line.
watch him do
Gold.
everything and see him do that.
If he
I'm
had
like,
read one of my lines, I would have died laughing. If he had read one of yours, like it doesn't even matter.
no,
These
he
are
makes
lines
the
you
word
guys-
the interesting.
Oh, yeah.
Like and
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
it. Like
Yeah.
Bolin, look up there. What do you see?
Is this a trick question?
I'll tell you what I see. A star being born. You're a star. People love stars. Stars tell them what to think and how to act. Bolin, have you ever tried to force a monkey marmot to ride a bicycle?
Not that I can recall.
Of course you haven't. You can't force monkey marmots to do anything. They've got to want to do it themselves.
Right.
How did playing these characters actually change you as a person in any way? Actually inhabiting these characters, did it make you think about your own life or relationships or personality or anything in any kind of a different way?
It was a combination of playing the character of Mako and just being around this writing, this kind of material, these two guys, Byrne and Mike, who are very, I feel like, sort of committed to life and change and growth and being better and expansion and all those things. And just being around that energy is good for me because I like that too, but I tend to, it's hard to live at that level and to commit to that level. So it's inspiring. It was inspiring for me to be here and to be in this world and to read these stories because it just opens your mind and makes you want to be a better person.
That's awesome. All right. One of you guys try to top that.
Yeah, beat that.
I
Go,
can't.
PJ.
Am I up? How do you even
That's what you get
attack
for
this?
laughing at me.
I mean, I think part of the reason I got the job is because I'm just a happy, positive person, and that's sort of I like to live that way. But I guess for me, it's always about like the work, and I always think to myself like, my great grandkid will like just like open it, blink an eye, and be like, "Oh, my great was an actor or a voiceover," and like I never know what they're gonna choose, so I always want to be good and like bust my butt to make sure because I feel like we're so lucky to get to do this. We're not like I'm not in the finance world like literally sitting in front of a computer. Like God bless my friends that do that because that's
But
something
you're
my
lucky
brain-
you have that background.
But
as
look
an
at that
actor.
background.
I have
Look
to
at that
say,
background. But it's too late to
very
fall
lucky.
back on it. Let's be honest.
Well, it's also
But
just
I
makes
feel
you smart
so
with your money.
privileged every day to be working and have a job, and I really take that to heart. So I'm like, I'm gonna be the best I possibly can. I'm always gonna try to find like good work to do, and this seems like so special, and I just wanted to be as good as I can for the guys because they did such great work. And then you pray that everyone else is, and this was the job that like these guys were so good, right? And then like the art is like off the moon incredible, and then everybody that's working with us, and then these grandiose stories that they told. And then the way that the show ended, that I think is the most special part of all of it. Like, this is just a job that I'm so proud to be a part of, and I'll always look back with fond memories. And it's just a time in my life that is I will always be so happy and proud of till the day I die, literally. And then whenever I see these guys, that they've given me a chance to have these friendships that we'll still randomly text each other or see each other. And it's like we never left each other or make fun of each other just like we are now. But like we'll have that forever. We'll be like 65 and like walking there like and we'll just get weird with each other immediately and not having seen them in how long? You know what I'm saying? Like, that in and of itself is a gift, and that just goes to show you that was a great product you were part of. Because when anything that I've been a part of that is great or becomes this big, we're all so proud of it because we were all so in it together and loved each other while we were doing it.
I love it. And I love the visual you gave me of a descendant of yours in like the 30th century.
Yeah.
Going like, oh, that's weird, pulling up the files of the Legend
Yeah, they're
of
not
Korra.
typing though. They're not typing. I just saw you type. They're not typing.
They're minority reporting.
They're
Minority reporting.
Yeah,
Thank you, Janet. They're minority reporting. They pull him up and they're like, oh, he's pretty good.
Yeah,
He's
he did
pretty
okay.
good.
He did okay.
That's a good show.
Yeah. He wasn't as great as the Microsoft Bunny in that commercial he did. or the butterfly. But yeah, because it's not a bunny, it's a butterfly. Ad for
true.
Microsoft
That checks
Nickelodeon.
out.
Let's
That
get it.
checks
Let's make a
out.
call. Let's make a call.
Checks out.
$32.
Janet?
It changed it very much in a literal way because I do so many cons now.
I'd like to do a couple. I'd like to.
I would love for you to come. And then again, like I do a lot of interviews about Korra, so I feel like if anyone has followed those, I don't know that I've said anything new. I'm trying to think of something I haven't already said, but for me, I do feel like she was such a specific character, and there were so many things that I identified with that it's been great for me because, she's not Superman. She was very, very flawed character, yet she came through all of this stuff and was incredibly powerful and incredibly helpful and accepted help from others. And so for me, especially doing cons or doing interviews, like kind of having that around me all the time has kept me very connected to the show and to that character, and so I feel very inspired to get through adversity the way she did, and so whether it's like a thing like PJ and I are both complaining because he has a back issue right now and I have a neck issue right now. You feel like an old person who's like, I have arthritis and I can't move. I should just stay in bed all the time. So so even small things like that,
suck it up.
There is.
Totally,
I mean, it's like well, number one. It's not the reason it's great that it's not Superman is it's not like this would never happen to Superman. It's like, well, this happened to Korra and she was the avatar and it still happened to her and it was really hard and she had all those feelings and it was okay that she felt those feelings and she pushed through them and is it ever over? Maybe not, but you keep going.
You know what I love that you said
all those things are huge.
She accepted help from others.
And
I love that you said that. That's huge.
You can't do it by yourself.
Truly.
So many heroic characters, they don't go into that
like,
as much,
good, they saved the day because everyone else screwed up. It's like, no, she screwed up. And she still saved the day with help.
Yeah.
So all of those things I think they're kind of floating around in me all the time. And I think that does, sometimes that does get me through challenging situations.
Thank you guys so much for coming in. This was a absolute pleasure.
Well, no,
this was
fantastic.
fantastic.
And I just want to say thank you to all the fans who supported us
we
this
love
whole
you guys.
time, and you guys are amazing, and thank you so much.
Well said. Truly.
And thanks, Mike and Brian.
Great time.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thanks, guys.
So there you have it, guys. That was our conversation with Janet Varney, David Faustino, and PJ Byrne. And just as promised, we've got the voice of Asami Sato, Seychelle Gabriel. What kind of stuff did you like? What were your shows?
Okay, well, I mean, I watched a lot of television as a kid, like way more than I do now, and I should know.
Yeah.
But Rugrats was the first big one for me. I think SpongeBob I watched a bunch of. I loved the Wild Thornberries.
Yeah.
I was like obsessed with Eliza, wanted to be her. Rocket Power, Hey Arnold. I feel like I grew up in like a really, really good, maybe golden age of like cartoons.
Yeah.
But everyone thinks that, or at least like my parents, Jetsons and the Flintstones. But I was like, but Rugrats and Hey Arnold and like all of that stuff. And I mean, SpongeBob's like a legendary cartoon.
Yeah. What does it feel like for you to know that like you are a part of Nickelodeon history?
Well, it's like something I'm very like nerdy excited about and also proud of, because out of all the things that I've done as I've professionally acted, like it's among like one of the top things. And the people involved, the story, and kind of the effect it had on audiences. I just am very, very, very grateful because I feel like I got lucky. And it's cool. And it's I didn't really watch The Last Airbender growing up so much. My brother did, and my brother did, and my dad did. So when I
really, that's interesting.
got into the world, I guess at that point maybe I was on like Lizzie McGuire. I don't know what I was watching, but when I got into the world and I started like watching it myself, like older, and my brother and dad were like, "Oh yeah, that show's rocks." Awesome.
Like, yeah, we've seen that. Yeah, that's great. What did your family think of you being cast in Legend of Korra?
I don't like remember their reaction so much as I feel like they were just like also pleasantly surprised that I was doing like a voice job, which no one thought, Yeah.
Because it was your first voice job.
Yeah. And it was cool because I met Brian and Mike through the movie, and, they heard me at the table read, and I talked. Actually, the first time I met them was we were booked on the same flight to Philadelphia, and we were all sitting near each other, but I didn't know who they were.
Right.
And my mom and I were all at like the baggage claim, and we all just kind of like figured out who each other were and that we'd just flown together.
You originally auditioned for Korra. You didn't audition for
Yeah, I auditioned
Asami.
for Korra. Yeah.
What was that like?
You know, different sides, because Korra is, you know, like very passionate, you know, energetic character, and Asami's a little more collected and
very chill.
So it's there's just different preparation wise. But I remember I'd never done voice acting before, so I didn't know what to do. I feel like I think I emailed my I forgot about that. I think I emailed my drama teacher and was like, give me some tips. Like, I'm doing this audition. I don't know what to do. And he's just like, you just need to act like you normally act.
Yeah, it's
like,
acting. It's acting.
Okay, yeah, just be like honest.
So was it like a bad news, good news situation where it's like somebody reached out to you and they're like, hey, you didn't get Korra, but...
I mean, it was all good news. It's like,
Okay,
as
great.
an actor, I mean, unless you're like really, really obsessed with a part, you
Sure.
know, to get any role in a project that's cool is like a win. But it was interesting to me because she was like supposed to be evil and then changed to good. So it was like this.
Yeah.
Honestly, talking about Asami, kind of, it was really exciting for me. So I was happy with that.
When did that switch happen?
I think it was shortly after the movie that I auditioned for. I haven't thought about it in a long time. But I feel like when I auditioned, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like she was still in the first phase of what they had for her. But then I remember talking to them later on at like the premiere, or could have been in LA, but I think it was the premiere, and they said, you know, we've decided to like take it a different route. And I was like, cool. Like, you know, like, because in the first series, like Team Avatar was like everything. So I was like, if she's good and she gets to be like hanging out with them, like I have no protests. Yeah.
How am I supposed to save the city when I can't even learn airbending? I'm the worst Avatar ever. I just feel alone.
No, that's nonsense. You're amazing.
Yeah, and remember, Aang hadn't mastered all the elements when he was battling the Fire Nation. He was just a little kid.
And he wasn't alone. He had his friends to help him. Look, the arena might be shut down, but we're still a team! The new Team Avatar!
We got your back, Korra, and we can save the city together.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it! What are we doing?
So what was it like for you as an actor to sort of navigate the romance side of this character's life?
Well, it always felt pretty natural because, you know, it's like life, you know, like in like real life, you know, relationships like ebb and flow and they change, you know, consistently.
Yeah.
And so with the Mako stuff, you know, there's like the infatuation period kind of, and
Yeah.
you're new. Oh, but you know, like you know, you want to be a detective and you know the Avatar, you know, and all that. And then, you know, then it becomes intense, and then I start getting, you know, upset with him, and it was, you know, it's very much like a real relationship.
Yeah.
And then with Korra, you know, when you spend so much time, characters spend so much time together, you can be vulnerable with each other, and you can just it's you know, like any relationship, just be more open. Yeah, it's really cool that Brian and Mike created multidimensional characters, you know, truer to real life, where people's sexuality is on a spectrum a lot of the time. You know, it's like these boxes that have, I don't know, been the norm in conversation for a lot of years. It's like, no, you know, like everybody, I believe, kind of resides on a spectrum, and you could be at the very far end of the spectrum, or you're like very, very straight or gay or whatever. But yeah, no, it's like they're just like more real, and so it's like that's why it's been so you know, welcomed by so many people, and like in emotional ways too, because it's just like, oh wow, like I've seen myself represented even in like just a part of this character, which is hard to in entertainment.
Did you know at the beginning of this show, of this job where you're voicing Asami, this character on this cartoon show, that by the end of it, that this character might have this kind of an impact? And if you didn't know from the when did you know? When did you, like, I know that Brian and Mike, did they pull you guys aside at some point and say, hey, this is what's going to happen at the end of the show?
Yeah. I mean, I knew that the show was going to have like a good effect on people, you know.
Oh yeah,
in the way
it already has that fan base.
storytelling.
Totally, yeah.
But they were like, we've decided to, you know, make this real. And at the end, and Jan and I were just like gung ho. We were like, yeah, like as far as we can take it, let's do it. And obviously there were some limitations.
Sure.
But it was cool and just like so unexpected too. Not so unexpected that like, we didn't acknowledge the connection that Asami and Korra had because that was there in those scenes with, where, we were letters and, when she's in the wheelchair,
absolutely.
Those scenes, I felt it was a really special, different kind of relationship than with Mako. And so when he brought it up, it was like, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah.
So, what now? Back to the dance floor?
I'm kind of all danced out. Honestly, after everything that's happened the past few months, I could use a vacation.
Let's do it. Let's go on a vacation, just the two of us. Anywhere you want.
Really? Okay. I've always wanted to see what the spirit world's like.
Sounds perfect.
I just bought the comic book.
Yeah.
And I'm still...
Have you read it yet?
I've read half of it.
Oh man,
and
I haven't had a chance to read it yet.
Already really good.
Is it really?
But
the continuing story of the Legend of Korra.
Yeah, and really just leaning into their relationship. In the beginning, so they're in the spirit world, and then
just on vacay, just hanging out,
just chilling, and then they go back to the Korra's like, let's go see my parents, and Asami's like, I don't know if maybe we shouldn't, but they do, and then they break the news because Korra, just is such an enthusiastic, like, I'm not afraid to be who I am, and she does it, and they're very accepting of it, but then then her dad says, like, well, maybe you should keep your private life to yourself. Oh. And Korra's like, well, what do you mean by that?
Oh, you can't tell Korra that.
and the mom's just like, oh, well, he's just meaning like some people won't accept it. But she's just like, well, you're one of those people, and I was just like, that's so real.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's so real.
Yeah. If there was an opportunity to come back, I feel like the answer is obviously yes.
Yeah.
To come back for like a special or a reunion or something Korra related. The answer is yeah.
Of course. Yeah.
Okay,
I mean, the opportunity to work with these people again, like you said, like it's a very special group of people.
Did you have any favorite Asami moments for the character that you recall as like, I love that moment?
Yeah, I feel like I've probably said this before, but when she, what is it, like the sand drifter in the desert?
Yeah.
When they like can't fly and so they makeshift this thing. And it's so cool.
Yeah.
How it's like she's like windsurfing or whatever, and Korra's bending the air, the sand or whatever.
Yeah.
That was really cool to me because one of my favorite parts about the last Airbender series was like the underground library with the owl and stuff. Like I would like marry the owl if I could. Like I would live with that owl. I'm just
out
like
in the desert.
I love that library.
What were the feelings that you went through when you saw the end result of that final scene, that final moment where Korra and Asami hold hands and look at each other and that's the end of the show, and then seeing the audience and fan reaction to that?
It's just like that kind of gratitude thing. Just like, because I wasn't responsible for this storyline.
Sure.
I was just, one of the vessels that like carried it to them. And to have played that role in it is just a cool thing that's like kind of surprising to me. Because you get in this just to like, act. You don't.
Right. That's a bonus.
Yeah, exactly.
You get into this because you like acting. That's why you're an actor.
Yeah, and you like to tell stories and stuff.
Yeah.
But telling this story and a story that doesn't get told a lot yet.
Right.
And also in this medium of like animated stuff, it is just cool. What really hit me was like when I went to conventions and people would like talk to me about it. This one girl, I guess hers wasn't even like a connection to the love stuff, but was the dad, the relationship with Asami and her dad.
Yeah.
This girl had lost her father and she was young and she was just like came to me like I really connected to your storyline. Wow. And I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Because again, like a lot of the time I grew up watching cartoons, they didn't have like kind of dramatic stuff like this in it.
And with Asami and her father, Hiroshi Sato, that was a beautifully told story and so heartbreaking and so great. So this fan's coming up to you and saying, I really connected with that aspect.
Yeah, which is just like so cool. And it's also just so telling of like Brian and Mike. I mean, I'm sure the other actors like saying their praises also, because they're just just such cool artists, and they just really push boundaries and test conventional thinking, and it's just so great because that's the only way that art really like progresses is like by doing things that make the company, you know, kind of scared or
Sure.
you know,
Sure.
It's just good. Yeah.
It's been a couple years. You look back fondly on Legend of Korra. If you could say one thing to the fans today, what would you say to the fans?
I mean, thank you. Thank you. Because without an audience, there's nothing, you know? It's like we provide the words and the visuals, and you put it all together to create an experience or like a living and breathing person. So thank you for that. And, you know, just for like being vocal about Korrasami even before it was a thing, which, you know, I think probably influenced Brian and Mike to, you know, consider that as an alternate storyline, and just like people being open with themselves, which caused us to be more open as performers. It was just a really special group of people.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Those were our interviews with the cast of The Legend of Korra. Huge thanks to Janet, David, and PJ, and Seychelle for coming in. That was fantastic. Thank you, guys. You're not going to want to miss an episode of the podcast, so please do me a favor. Subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts from. Visit us online at nickanimationpodcast.com for more episodes. Thanks to the awesome crew who puts this podcast together. This podcast is produced by Jonathan Highlander, Dana Vasquez-Eberhardt, Tony Gutierrez, Jamie Goss, and Andrew Huebner. Original music by Useful Creatures. This week's episode edited by Jonathan Highlander and Josh Caldwell. Our social media team is Narbe Manassians, Sammy Armature, and David Watson. And our man behind the faders with the gorgeous flowing locks, our engineer, Manny Grujalva. Until next time, keep watching cartoons.